So it's very responsive.
It's exceptionally responsive, yeah. You're not videoing right now, are you?
No.
Wow, that's an amazing field. You won't have an issue getting a job in that field.
No. She was top 7% of her class. She was a captain in the Civil Air Patrol.
Really?
Drum major in her high school band, marching band. She's a good kid. Other ones are good too. We'll see how they turn out.
All right, today we have Matt and his amazing Long-EZ right here. Matt, how long have you been flying?
I've been flying since 1993. I got my license out of 39er November, Princeton, New Jersey in 1994, and then didn't fly for about 18 years between 2000 and 2018. As the case goes with aviators, I got a divorce, I started flying again, and this is, I think, what now the 5th plane that I've owned since I started flying again 5 years ago.
And so of all the aircraft, why a Long-EZ was the choice of aircraft for you?
So the first time I saw this plane was at the Sussex Air Show in the late 80s. There was a gentleman that flew these in an aerobatic performance along with Leo Laudenslager and his extra and the French Connection and Bob Hoover, and I thought, this is an engineer's airplane. So I started as an aerospace engineer, and if you look at it, it's like a spaceship. And
yeah.
I thought it was just super cool. It's completely different, and I thought one day I would really love to own one, and that happened last August.
And prior airplanes that you've owned leading up to this, what were some of those?
So when I started flying again, I bought an RV3 that was originally owned by Pappy Boyington, a little single-seat tail dragger. That was a ton of fun.
Wow.
I was in a partnership in a Comanche 235, sorry, a Comanche 260 and a Cherokee 235. I sold the RV3, got a Glassair 1 RG, flew that about 400 hours in 2 years. Sold that last summer, and then there was a guy on the field at Spaceport that had this plane. I saw it at the fuel pumps. I'm a very, very shy person, so naturally I went over and said, "Hey, is that your plane? That's really cool. I've always wanted one. Are you willing to sell it?" And it's like, "Actually, I am." And so it turned out to be a little bit of you know, providence there, that to find a good one on the field, that it just sort of fell into my lap, and I thought, wow, it's sort of meant to be. I really do need to try this. And,
yep.
And I've flown it about 170 hours since August of last year now.
Now this was originally designed by the legendary Burt Rutan.
Burt Rutan, correct.
And he was, I mean, the guy was way ahead of his time. He designed the aircraft that flew around the world. Yep. But this particular one, Long-EZ is known for characteristics such as efficiency and speed.
Sure.
What about this airplane did you like the design? Did you like the performance? What about it that really just kind of, I want that plane?
Yeah, I mean, the design was a major part of it. There's nothing else out there that looks like it other than, you know, some copycats, velocities, etc. But from the design perspective, it's very unusual, and that sort of fits my sort of personality as well. I thought, yeah, let's try it out. It is known for its efficiency. It is quite quick. It cruises anywhere between 140 and 170 knots, depending on how hard you want to push it. It does only have a fixed pitch prop, so it's limited by some efficiencies there. The nose gear does retract as well. Kind of looks like a spaceship.
Oh, it does.
And really, for me as well, it's the bubble canopy. It's the feeling that you're one with the airplane. The tandem seating, so that you're right on the center line. And other than the canard wing that you have up front here, the visibility is obviously insanely good, and you won't find anything like that in any kind of certified aircraft, a Piper or a Cessna or anything like that.
Now this canard design, I mean, this is what probably sets us apart from the rest. This, I've heard multiple indications that does not inherently stall, the nose just lowers. Is that true?
That's correct. It's actually set up so that it will not stall. You can't stall it, and it's the way that it is designed and set up. Is that it will just sort of mush, and then the nose will drop, and you'll get a sort of a porpoising kind of up and down. But it's possible if you were to do something really screwy, you can get it into a deep stall. It doesn't want to. You don't want to spin these airplanes, and so you do still have to treat them with a certain amount of respect in that regard. But and it doesn't love to fly slow either. So you want to keep that nose down on approach, and it's more of a cross-country sport aircraft, I would say, than something you're going to go and fly, do a lot of touch and goes in a day just to go and fly for now.
Yeah. Well, let's walk around and some of the characteristics. Obviously, I know you've added, or the VGs have been added to this. So does that just help with slow speed controllability, or?
It does, yeah. It really does help a lot with the slow speed controllability, especially in climb and when you're a little bit slower on your approach. And
this, there's
the VGs both on the canard and then also on the main wing.
And you also have these added. What would you call these?
These are called fences.
Fences.
And what they do is, at a higher angle attack, it keeps the airflow going forward to back over the wing, as opposed to sort of spilling it down towards the outside of the wing. And that again is for to make sure that you have the lift attached to the wing.
Now, fuel capacity, how many gallons does this hold?
This is approximately 50 gallons, and 52 actually, I believe. Most of it's usable. I haven't tested.
It's probably a good theory.
But from a consumption perspective, if I'm flying at 10 to 12,000 feet at 2,400 RPM, I'm burning probably 7 gallons an hour.
And what does this give you?
You can go well over 1,000 nautical miles of range.
On the current setup?
That's correct.
Wow. That's amazing.
And if you want to fly it at 100 knots, pull the power back to under 2,000 RPM, and it's burning under 5 gallons an hour, and you can just cruise all day long.
Wow. And this, obviously, for some that are not used to this, is called a pusher configuration?
That is correct, yeah.
Okay. And what motor do you have in this particular airframe?
This is a Lycoming IO320.
Okay.
So it's fuel injected, and it also has dual electronic ignition, so it uses automotive spark plugs, which is really nice. They're Iridium spark plugs, NGKs, and I just replace them every year.
Really?
Yeah, they're inexpensive. They're about $5 a plug, and they work great. The electronic ignition on this one is self-supporting over around 900 RPMs. So if you were to lose, it will continue to, the engine will continue to run.
And you're about you said 160 horsepower?
This is 150 horsepower.
150 horsepower.
If it were, a lot of the 320s will do 160, but that's typically when you have a constant speed prop.
Okay.
And you can get that for your takeoff power. And they're limited to 150 usually, but this has a Kato climb prop on it, which is, I think, really necessary to have here at altitude.
That makes sense, because we're, on a good day, 7,000 feet on a hot.
Yeah, so spaceport is 5,500 feet, and almost every single day of the year, your density altitude is going to be above that.
Yeah.
In the summer, it's easily 8.
Yeah.
Very often. So I would say that at the altitude here, 320, 150 horsepower is pretty good idea, I think, for Long-EZs. A lot of these were made they were originally designed with 235, so about 108 horsepower. And they're fine, I think, at sea level, but here at altitude, you want to fly those on probably cooler days, a little bit lighter.
Now, I noticed that this, you only have one control surface, being the ailerons.
There's the ailerons, and then there's the elevator is part of the canard.
Wonderful.
And then the individual rudders
right here. So no flaps. No flaps. So I mean, when somebody looks at this aircraft and like, you have no flaps, what's your basis of slowing it down? How do you approach speeds from your cruise speeds?
So to slow it down, you want to get it below 100 knots indicated first. That's the speed at which I'll drop the nose gear. You can see it's pretty flimsy. It doesn't do much for drag, but I do have a retractable speed brake under the belly. I can show that to you if you're interested.
Yeah.
And what that does is it adds a lot of drag to it as well.
And and
the rudders are individually controlled, so you can stomp on both of the rudder pedals and then get additional braking from these.
From that.
Yeah, it's aerodynamic braking.
How does this handle with crosswinds?
It handles crosswinds pretty good. I've landed it in a 20 knot crosswind. I don't think I'd want to try much more than that.
Okay.
But it's controllable. It just takes, I think, a little bit while. You want to get used to the performance, how it handles in there. I wouldn't say go off and start flying in 20 knot crosswinds.
That's fine.
And since it comes in relatively hot, it's smarter to use have a little bit of headwind, especially on takeoff. The takeoff rolls on these are a little bit longer than what you'd expect in a Cessna.
And what's your usual liftoff speed that you aim for?
So the manual will specify somewhere in the 65 to 70 knot rotation speed, which is a little bit higher than you'd find in a Cessna. Maybe a 172 is about 55 knots. Here at altitude, because of the triumvirate of less power, less lift, less thrust on the prop, I will typically rotate around 75 to 80 knots indicated, so that I get a nice positive pitch up and then climb out, as opposed to sort of having to accelerate with the induced drag as you rotate close to the ground. So today, for example, I think with about half tanks and just me on board, so maybe 1,450 pounds weight, I used about 2,500 feet coming out of spaceport.
So they use a decent amount of runway for takeoff, and is the same for landing? Landing,
you can, that's the thing, you can get yourself into trouble because you can get it slowed down and you can fly it at 70 knots on final if you'd like. I typically will do about 80 knots, slow it down about 75 to 80 over the numbers, and then I'm touching down about 65 knots on the 1,000 footers. You can come in slower and land on the numbers and get it stopped within 1,500 feet easy. You just won't necessarily be able to get back out again.
Good point.
And it does have Grove brakes, so they're spectacularly powerful. They're very strong brakes. Some of the best I've ever had on any airplane.
And let's see the speed brake system, and then we'll take
sure.
I noticed you have avionic updates on this that are seldomly seen on a Long-EZ, which is nice to see. And this
so go ahead.
This nose wheel is obviously free castering.
It is, yeah. Okay. The nose wheel right now is down just a little bit, or up a little bit, because of the way it likes to tilt back on its tail with no one in it. And so just casters like that, and everything is done by differential braking, all the turning. The speed brake is controlled electrically as well. The switch here, you just hold it down, and it comes down in about 8 to 10 seconds.
So at that setting, is it pretty noticeable the amount of, the braking effectiveness when you're in the air?
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
Okay.
It makes a massive difference. I've landed just to see what it would be like without it, and you come in just a lot shallower, and you have your sink rate is going to be significantly less.
And can you land with that on, or do you need to disengage that immediately on final? Your ability.
No, I land with the speed brake down.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's good to know. Yeah. And obviously this is your elevator. It's completely reversed from your standard airplane.
Correct. Yeah. That's pitching up and then pitching down.
Wow.
And then it has electric trim as well. So On takeoff, I set it right about there, and so that'll give me about the correct angle of nose up once I start my initial climb.
And you obviously have done some nice upgrades too. I think my favorite part about the Long-EZ is how pilot oriented. You know, it's like I call it like the civilian F-16 but with a prop. You have the side stick design, which that's amazing. And do you like flying with that versus the center stick?
Oh, I love it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's great.
And what have you done as far as avionics?
So these avionics were in here when I bought the airplane.
Okay.
This is a Dyne and Skyview Touch. So it is a touch screen, and then also has, you know, buttons on the bottom as well. Has a remote transponder, ADS-B in and out. It also has a single axis autopilot that's also controlled through the Dyne in here. For example, there's your autopilot right there.
Wow, so you have autopilot in this.
Yeah.
That's nice.
You can put it, it would support a second axis for pitch. It just doesn't have it.
Wow, okay. That's amazing. And
this is a Garmin radio and a backup Garmin era GPS that's a little bit old, considering taking that out and just having the space for my iPhone there.
and is this IFR capable?
It is.
It is. And have you done much IFR with it?
I haven't.
And you know, for the average person, this is a pretty good, I guess the points that appeal about this, it's a really good cross-country type of plane.
It is, absolutely.
You can cover a lot of ground. Storage wise, you know, if someone asks, well, I want to have a suitcase or I need a bag, what are your options? I know that you see some with pods. And
yeah, suitcases are out.
Okay.
You can't get a suitcase in here, but if you look over here, sort of on the inside of the strakes there, there's some area, and that goes through to the front as well on both sides.
Okay. So you get a backpack.
Yeah, you could throw something small in there. You know, I'll put some underwear in a Ziploc bag, toiletries, and just shove it in there until I can't fit anymore. But it does also have attachment points are here on the wing.
Okay.
I have a couple of baggage pods that are pretty big, about this big around.
So you can get quite a bit of stuff in there too.
Yeah, but same thing, you know, it's you'll have to pack them individually, like, you know, grocery store bags or whatever, and shove them in there. They'll take some speed off of it, probably 10 to 15 knots. I've not used them. The previous owner didn't use them either. They were used at some point. It's just I think that unless you have a reason to go somewhere and you have someone in the back and you have a lot of stuff, most people, you don't see them on there very often.
That's understandable.
But it's very nice that I have them, because they're fairly rare to find as well.
That's amazing. Well, let's go take it for a spin and see what it's like characteristic wise in the air.
You got it.
Okay.
All right, thanks. Clear prop. Prop clear down.
Visibility 10, E clouds 8,000, 15,000 scattered, 20,000 scattered. Temperature 14, 2.4, altimeter 3028. Visual approach, landing and departing, runways 12 left and right. Notice airman, hazardous weather information for Colorado and surrounding states available through.
I'm just going to do run up here.
Temporary flight.
Sounds good.
Effect over Jeffco VOR 269 radial, 10 miles DME.
Northbound, India.
Long-E 713, uniform ground roger, runway 12 left via Romeo 7 Alpha.
12 left via Romeo 7 Alpha, 7128 uniform.
Good, boost pump is on.
Runway
Speed brake is up, gear is down. Autopilot is off. Mixture is set.
Fixed drive
Boost pump
550,
off.
follow the Learjet and cross runway 3, fixed belt.
Okay, follow the leader and cross the runway.
400, 10 minutes after. Departure frequency 125.12, squawk 2770.
712 uniform is ready to go 12 left at Alpha 7. We're going northbound.
November 7128 uniform, Metro Tower, roger, runway 12 left, cleared for takeoff, left turn approved north.
Right, 12 left, clear for takeoff, left turn in the north, approved 2 uniform. Ready to go, boost pump is on. Trim is set. Verify 12 left.
84 is now number 2 at Alpha 7.
Metro Tower, make air 290, holding short, 12 left, VFR northbound.
And we have 12 left on the runway, 12 left on it heading. We're rolling.
Call Metro Tower for departure. Tower is offline for a moment. Take Metro Tower, make air 290, number 1 holding short, 12 left, VFR northbound. Make air 290, Metro Tower, left turn approved north, runway 12 left, clear for takeoff. Left turn north approved, 12 left, clear for takeoff, make air 290. Number 8 for Lima, proceed to the lake, Stanley Lake, just south of the airport.
Here's coming up.
You can turn northbound over the runways, maintain at about 7 south, and across over the airport midfield.
We'll proceed direct Stanley Lake out at about 7,000. I'm assuming for a midfield left downwind for 12 left.
November 8 for Lima, your assumption is correct.
And Tower, hello, Cub 19, Foxtrot, X-ray, flight of 2 Cubs, we're holding short 3, VFR northbound.
Cub 19 Foxtrot, X-ray, flight, Metro Tower, roger, runway 3 at Alpha, line up and waiting for.
Metro Tower, Cap 584 is number 1 at Alpha 7.
Cap 584, Metro Tower, say request.
South departure, please.
So what are we doing speed-wise right now?
Right now we're doing 155 knots true at 2,500 RPM.
X-ray.
And about 160 over the ground.
Wow.
I'll slow it down a little bit.
You know, a common question would be like, how does this handle with turbulence?
It handles turbulence pretty good, actually.
Does it?
500.
Yeah, so what ends up happening with it is because it has two lifting surfaces, as opposed to one that has to balance it in the back, you get turbulence will just sort of be kind of like an up and down movement, as opposed to having any kind of weird pitch upsets.
Oh, okay. So it's very responsive.
It's exceptionally responsive, yeah. You're not videoing right now, are you?
No, I can. It's amazing how much ground you can cover.
Yeah, no kidding. Why don't we do about 180 degrees, turn back to the towards the mountain.
Right turn?
Left turn, please.
Left turn, okay.
And then you're going to have to push a little bit on the pitch. It does just want to drop a little bit as you, you're doing nice now on altitude. That's great.
I see what you mean by hardly any control movement in the
thing. You know, when you get into the turn, though, it does require a little bit of back a little bit, but not too bad. That's nicer. I don't know if you can see the altitude, but you're doing great. That's spot on 7,500.
Would you want me to stop climb at 6,500 to Alpha Lima?
November 5 Alpha Lima, runway 12 left, clear for takeoff and climbing through 6,500 southbound.
Okay, thank you, Alpha Lima.
Metro Tower, Long-EZs 712 uniform is 15 miles to the northwest, landing India. India.
Long-EZ 7128 uniform, Metro Tower, continue straight in, runway 12 left.
All right, we're going to continue for a straight in.
Metro Tower, Skyhawk 75 Foxtrot, number 1 at runway 12 left for VFR.
Gears down and locked. Verified. Gears down and locked. Gears down and locked.
Hold short of runway 12 left, landing traffic.
Holding short 12 left, 75 Foxtrot.
That's at 632, traffic no factor.
So we're 90 knots right now. We'll chop it when we get a little closer.
2 left, clear to land.
All right, clear to land, 12 left, and direct to the number 6 at 632.
That's at 632, altitude, your discretion.
Metro Tower, 74547 Acro.
Gears down and locked.
Over boulder stacks at 7,500 inbound, full stop, India.
That's 4547 Echo Metro Tower, make straight in, runway 12 left, and fly to the lake, make straight in, runway 12 left.
Fly to Marshall Lake, then straight in, 12 left, 47 Echo.
Tower 990, 8 kilos on the practice RNAV 12 left, and we had to break off a little bit for traffic. We're just about close to Marshall Lake, inbound, full stop.
24 Victor Whiskey, southbound approved, just use caution, traffic outside the airspace, not on frequency, 6,900 indicated, just 1 mile south of you, transitioning south.
Southbound turn approved, I have traffic in sight, Mooney 984 Victor Whiskey.
24 Victor Whiskey, frequency change approved, good flight.
Frequency change approved, Mooney 984 Victor Whiskey.
Long-EZ 28 uniform, no delay exiting the runway, please turn left when able, contact ground 112.7.
We're going off now here, no delay to inform, contact ground, we're off.